Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host, Ty Christensen, and I got everyone guest Jordan Christensen. Hey.
uh,
That's my
yeah,
quote.
I know. Demon. I was just gonna start screaming that she's on fire. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my quote is just like that very half second. My face is just trying to make the scariest face I can. Or slipping my shoes into freaking thumbtack or glass. What was it? Broken glass?
Oh
What
my
did she put in
gosh.
thumbtacks or nails in her shoes? And she's like, and
Or
she's walking at him.
how about
That was
how
so
about when she's having her
unnerving.
spiritual moments and she's like, ah, I'm like, oh,
No, it's weird. Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
weird. Have you seen like those religious
Like
videos though, where
ecstasy.
where
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
like touch their heads
Yeah.
and then they like start shaking and they're like,
Yeah, yeah, like involuntary spasms. Involuntary
Yeah.
spasms. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
Dodgeball.
Yeah, dude. It's freaking Ben Stiller up in here. Yeah, it's weird. It overcomes you and it flows through you. It's like ecstasy, right? They're just like, it's so wonderful to feel the spirit, and you're like,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I get like
ah,
emotional. I feel good when I feel the spirit, but I just,
you don't writhe around on the floor
I
in
don't.
ecstasy. No, you
She's
don't do
like,
it.
I'm like, holy cow! Like, chill out. That's great.
Yeah. Let's
Cracking
get
me
into
up.
this movie, guys. We're talking about Saint Maud. This movie came out in 2019.
And every time I see that
It's
stuff, it makes me think of Borat. I can't not think of Borat when he's like there and they're like, take your tongue out. And he's like,
so good, dude. Director Rose Glass.
or
This
did
is
you
a
watch
messed up
the
woman.
Nathan For You episode where they go to the lady's house and cast out the demon?
Yes. Oh my
Oh
word.
my
Yes. I was going to talk to you
gosh.
about. See, that's exactly what this is. Well, I mean, not this in particular,
Yeah.
because this is like, for all intents, like, is it real? Unreliable narrator, I guess you could say.
Yes. I
But
love that.
which I really like, because I want to talk to you about this,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I think it's very clear that this is a complete unreliable narrator and
Mhm.
everything here is fabricated. I think the very last half second of the film ensured that you didn't mistake it for anything else. One genuine half split second, you blink and you miss it, and you're like, oh, like delusions of grandeur much. I loved it. Dude, this feeds right into the narcissism that we have of our youth today. They think that the protagonists, they think they got angel wings and they're beautiful and
You
they're
literally
sainted.
could have blinked and missed that and then been like, oh, she just
Yeah, she ascended
maybe she
to
wasn't
the heavens.
crazy.
She achieved, what do you call it, sainthood, I guess you could say, right? It's nuts, guys. I gotta give credit. Morpheed Clark, I watched all the Rings of Power. What a snooze fest
But
that
was
thing
her
was.
acting okay or
How do I say this? It's more poorly written than her bad acting, and it's so tragic because she's trying to be a powering female. I watched the heck out of this movie, and I was like, Morpheed Clark, keep sticking with the indie directors. Stay with Rose Glass. I would
she
see
was
8 more films like this before I ever
was
watched
her
Rings of
eyes as
Power ever
creepy
again.
in that movie as this? Like was she
Yeah,
wearing contacts or something? They looked black. Like,
soulless, right?
yeah, it was creepy staring at her. Like it was almost entrancing. I was like, oh.
Morpheed Clark, girl, what are you doing? And again, that is just a. She's gonna be fine. She'll come out on her, on top. She's 5 more seasons. You're the main character, like you're gonna be fine on the most expensive TV show of all time. I'm just saying, like,
Hopefully they
I
get new
really
writers
got a
on
rise
that.
out of this
Ugh.
movie. I thought it was great. I love this movie. So horrifying, by the way. So folks that are watching it, it is a scary movie. This scared the heck out of me. And you want to talk about jump scares? It was like completely called for, I suppose. Like terrifying. Blink and you miss them. These scenes are quick. This movie's only a tight hour and 20 minutes.
And I got mad appreciation for that.
Yeah, Rose did a great job. Didn't waste any time. She's like, here's a character. This is the story. Here's the players. Have at it.
Yeah,
And then you're
yeah,
like,
it's only
oh,
an hour and
something's
20
off.
minutes. Like it feels very like it was over fast. I watched it a second time. I'm like, wow, that was a short film. And I
Yeah,
don't know
that
about
was
you,
quick.
but like the whole time I was just totally in it. Like I looked away, I looked back and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go back and like watch. I missed something because
I
I
went back
love
and rewatched a certain scene 3 times. I'll call it the Iron Legend scream. I was like, what on earth?
Your mouth like drops.
Yeah. Oh, I know, dude.
Oh my gosh. You kind of look like those vampire things from the Legion. Is that what it's called? When their like mouths drop?
The Legion. Or you said I Am Legend? Because that's
No,
what I just said.
Legion.
Wait, which one's Legion?
It's that weird,
Is it the
cheesy
one with
one
the
with
guy with
Dennis
the
Quaid.
wings?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw the poster for it. Never saw the movie.
I watched the trailer just with the old grandma where she like drops her jaw. She's like, "Arr."
I
But
love it, dude. But this one's like, I don't know, it's like tastefully done because it's
yes.
quick and
Yes.
because even the moments that seem ridiculous. Okay, what I love about this movie, what I love about this movie is you could argue it's ambiguity, but I think it's very clear cut. Like self-important narcissism of a younger generation that hates their older counterparts. They lived a life, they're trying to make pick up the broken pieces of their life, and she's like, I'm here to save you. Like this Saint Maud again, she's got her arms outstretched in the poster, and she's like, I am this great person that's bringing this gospel truth to you. And it's and then when she gets rejected and gets turned out on her face, her whole world gets flipped upside down. And she's like, how could this be? You felt the spirit. I saw it. You were overcome with ecstasy, just like I was, And she's like, I faked it. And you're like, you couldn't have possibly faked it. It was real. And she's like, I
Oh my
never felt
gosh.
anything. Get out of my sight. And you're like, but I thought what we shared was special. Guys, this movie is not so.
Yeah. I absolutely loved it. And I so Red Letter Media mentioned this movie and then I started it, but then there was like a narration at the beginning. I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about narrations right now. And so I stopped it, but then Elvis the Alien put it in his top 100. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I need to check it out. So I finished it and then I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
I am autonomous and I think for myself. But if people that I
oh my
like and
gosh.
respect
You
feel
ever
the
take
autonomous,
recommendations from people, Ty?
I do. I just think it was really funny how you're like no, in fact, actually, it's funny that you said that because I was thinking about that too, where I'm like, sometimes it is the people that you watch it with. Like you recommended it, and I was like, I will put it on my list to see. But I almost thought like, I don't know if I'm in the mood for it. But when I did see it was an hour and 30, that was more preferable than watching like, I don't know, another 8 seasons or episodes of something else. Like a tight hour and 20-minute movie. Let's saddle up for that because
Well,
I
I just
just
if I
finished
have two
watching.
people whose what taste in movies I feel similar to, then if I've got two recommendations from two different people, then I'm like, oh, okay, I should definitely check this out.
Or even to like understand, because sometimes I'll see that they review a movie. I usually won't watch it if I'm intrigued by the movie. Because like, let's say they recommend a movie and they're like, "This was a good film," I will stop right then and there and be like, "I'm not going to hear anything about it. I'm not going to watch the trailer. I'm going to go give it a shot." And if I give the movie a shot, I'm going to like discover whether or not I like it.
Well,
I
I
turn off movies
did,
all the time now. Yeah, yeah.
but
So,
I wasn't into it. So then it was
oh
it,
really? So you
that's
started it and then didn't
that's
like
what I
it
said
after
that
narration.
their
Well, I heard that
narration
you didn't
turned me
like it
off.
at first, but you literally turned off the
I turned it
movie.
off, and then
Yeah,
like a month later, I saw that another person recommended it that I
and you're
trusted,
like,
and I'm like,
all
okay,
right.
maybe I need to finish it.
Like, well, it is midnight
And,
and
and,
I'm
I'm
not fully sober.
and I'm really glad I finished it. It was a fun one. So, like, I definitely put it in top 100 favorite horror films, not in top 100, but
Now,
top
the
100
listeners
horror.
here might be thinking, why haven't I mentioned anyone else's name in the cast? Because I cannot pronounce their names. I thought the Korean names were bad. Here we go. Hey, Will, Fiona, Dune, Jennifer Eel, Marcus Hutton. There you go. Carl Breck
And
Up.
the
Breck Up.
the lady
Sylvia
she's
Fraser.
taking care of today, she nailed
Yes.
it. Like the whole time, I'm like, their dynamic is so
Amanda.
great. Like,
Yeah.
and your interpretation of it, I think, is very interesting. But actually, I didn't see it like that at all. Like the
Yeah,
young
let's hear it.
generation, because the
Oh,
young
okay.
generation, I feel like, is completely like anti-religion. So I just thought that was
That
interesting that you.
I almost think they're not anti-religion. It's just morphed into self-important, like
Yes, I do agree
narcissism.
with that.
Yeah, self-importance.
I just
That's their
I
new religion, though. It's like what I am matters more than what you think I am or
because
perceive
I
me
saw, but
as.
I saw
Perceive
the
me as this. Call me
I
your god.
well, I saw it as the opposite because because I mean we're pretty religious and I just saw it as like
Whoa, whoa,
us.
whoa! I'm very religious.
I but I'm just saying like that lady I pictured as more of everybody else because they're like everybody else is like whoa like
More
back off and then
hedonism. Yeah,
yeah and then
hanging out with
trying to
hookups. Yeah,
like
yeah.
rub it in her face and make her jealous and like bringing in the party and then making a scene out of her and like and I don't know so I just
Yeah, it is, but yeah, it's childish on both parts. Like you
Yeah.
have Amanda who's like taking on the other no, not the nurse. What's her name?
Well,
Carol, right? Bringing over Carol and being like, "Hey, you're just doing hookups, and this woman's really important to me." And they can laugh about things, enjoy some substance, whether it's drinking weed or whatever.
well, and I
And
appreciated so much of the body language, like when she like covers herself because she doesn't feel beautiful because the girl feels like she's better than her, like that younger girl. I just love that. Like she could see that. Like I just like moments where they're really like it. Cameron said this a million times, like the show don't tell. So I really appreciated this film because there was a lot of that. They didn't sit there and monologue to you, and they showed you and told such a good story.
yeah.
Oh, and Ty, did it remind you of the witch at the very end where the guy's like whispering or the spirit or whatever is telling her?
Oh heck
And
yes! I was waiting for it. And I was like, "Are they going to do a jump scare?" And thankfully they didn't. But I was like, "See, that was still more unnerving than anything else I've seen." Oh, dude. Okay, let me compare this movie to a movie called Smile I just watched.
yeah, it kind of
There's
did
four
remind me of
great
Smile
scenes
a
in
little bit.
Smile, but there's four great jump scares in Smile, which is funny that I'm saying jump scares. Yes, I know they're jump scares, but like they were well done.
Yeah.
And the
Oh
movie
yeah.
I think had a lot of potential to be like something like this.
Right. Yeah.
And it
Because at the very
just
beginning,
missed the
Ty,
mark.
I
I don't
know at
know.
the very beginning they were like building up all this like amazing tension, and as she was talking about it, I got chills so many times. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah,
Eh,
I love the it reminded me of Hereditary in that way, where it's like
yeah.
I enjoyed the depression element, like Haunted of Hill House, the all the haunting stuff, but like to me it just turned into like a cartoon.
I was
And I get
laughing at
it,
the
like
end. I was
yeah,
laughing.
yes, yeah, it was too.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Which is weird because it was like, yeah, you want to have a horror movie ending, but like Saint Maud is how you do the horror movie ending, right?
Yes.
Like anyway, yeah, because like, but that's what I have Smile on my brain because I fell asleep 4 times watching it. I was hooked from beginning to end with this movie.
Yeah.
And even the beginning, I would argue is arguably boring. Like watching someone caregive for someone and stretch their muscles isn't
Well,
exciting.
well,
But I
and
work with senior citizens, so this was kind of like, oh, this would be like the opposite side of what I do because I do like the money, healthcare, and stuff like that. Whereas they and insurance, and they're doing like uh the caretaking, right? Like day to day helping, food, cooking, cleaning, stuff like that. So
yeah, and the
but
cuts in this are so great. Like every time something like when she'd start like feeling the
uh,
spirit or whatever, and all of a sudden she like open up her
uh,
mouth, and all of a sudden it like just a quick cut. So good. Because
so
it would leave
yeah.
that because with that last image, it would leave that image in your head. So when you're on the next scene, you just can't stop thinking
It's like,
about that
what did
last.
I just
I know.
see? Hard cut. Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that too, because this movie is so quick. They do not take time. It's like, oh, did you miss it? Go back
Mm,
and watch the movie, and you can. It's a tight hour and 24 minutes. Like
yeah.
otherwise, it's like, oh, we're gonna like stretch. And this is the problem with Smile. They literally have this scene drag on forever. It's this demon woman crawling around. I don't know what she was. It looked like freaking Michael Jackson crawling around.
She kind of looked like the creature from
That face.
Barbarian, a little bit.
Wait. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned Barbarian. Did we review that movie on the
Yeah. Yeah.
pod? Oh, I missed
Yeah.
it, didn't I?
Yeah.
I missed it. I was so bummed I missed it. Watch that movie also. So I've been watching all these scary movies. Saint Maud and Barbarian stand out where Smile really suffered. But anyway, Smile could have learned something from Saint Maud and from Barbarian because it had its own thing. It's like, oh, I see someone smiling, and I thought those parts were clever, and going into murders. I love that. That was great. She's like, I'm gonna go kill this person because if I kill them, I can get the thing to jump for me. It reminded me, but I was like, let's be fair though. You're taking this from It Follows almost, but I was fine with it. I
Yes.
was fine with it because I'm like, it's still different.
They
It's like you
pass
have
it
to
through
kill someone. Yep,
suicide. Yeah.
pass it through suicide and pass it through killing. It's a horrifying premise.
Yeah.
Love it. Love the concept. Keep it going. Oh, it's whatever this is at the end. Yeah. So yeah, that's what happened. It kind of like died out. Whereas Saint Maud, the ending was like, did I hear that right? Is literally, and then see that right because I would say it's half a second. So the
Well,
very end of
because
this movie,
and when she
yeah,
thought she crushed the guy's chest, because clearly she had done that in the operating room, but well, not clearly, because that was also kind of dubious. At the very opening scene, remember where she's like huddled in the corner and she's covered in blood? Like she must have like smashed in the woman's chest when she's operating him. I don't know if you skipped the scene, but when she was with that dude, it looked like she crushed his chest inward.
skip the scene. What are you talking about? I watched the whole movie from beginning to end. Why would I
Well,
skip a scene?
well, I'm talking about, remember then when she's with the guy and she's pushing down on his chest and then she like crushes him inside. Did you not
Yeah,
see that?
I
Okay.
did see that. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
uh that's kind of the movie playing with your head because you just said the very end you didn't know whether or not the woman is an actual demon because the whole time you're like, oh, is this girl seeing things? Because throughout the film you're like, is she
Oh,
crazy?
so reliable narrator. So let me
Yes.
get into that. So
Yeah.
I do believe that she really did cave in someone's chest. I think that was given as a nugget, like she had
Yes.
experienced some
The
form of
opening scene,
trauma.
she's in the corner
Yeah,
and she's
yeah,
her hands are covered in blood.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's
I
why,
think that happened. I'm
wh-
not saying nothing happened. I'm saying
no, no,
the
but
thing. Okay, yeah,
what didn't happen was the guy, remember, she thought she crushed his chest.
yeah.
I'm just saying that's one of many moments I'm sure you're going to get into that were just in her
That did
head.
happen. Oh, okay. No, but
Because
she did. She was covered in blood. Or that didn't happen.
not the guy.
Not the guy. Oh no,
Oh, it
because yeah, because she envisioned, but it was a flat.
was a
It was a
flashback.
triggering experience, though, because it
Yeah.
reminded her of the real trauma. But you're right in the fact. See, and this is where like the reality mixed with like, okay, she's experienced trauma and she's now starting to have like like what do you call it? Like
Yes, that's what I was just saying. That was
mental
one of
relapse.
many
Yeah.
things that were
Okay.
making it an unreliable narrator. Because then
Or
her
leading her
mind.
into insanity, right? So
Thank
like
you. Sorry.
so yeah, yeah. Like, but I get what you're saying, like, right? Because yeah, there's this horrific incident in the beginning, and you're like, oh, like I'm gonna take her word for it. I'm just gonna assume it happened. I believe it did because again, there's nothing to say like, oh, that didn't happen because doesn't Joy come over or the other nurse comes over? It's either Joy or the other nurse, and she's like, hey, like I'm sorry for like what happened to you or whatever, because like everyone
Yeah, it was
knew
a nurse that she used to work with. Yeah.
you caved in some guy's chest, and that's a pretty horrific thing to
Well,
witness
but
or
I
be a
love
part
it.
of.
The film,
You're
you
trying to
see,
save someone's
like you're
life,
even
but
asking, was it a nurse? Like, I love they don't spell it out for you. It's not like a Tommy Wiseau movie where he comes in
uh,
and says, "Hey,
oh, you're a
remember
nurse.
me? I'm the nurse he works with." And
Yeah, it's just like a
like,
nosy person that keeps showing up to your place, and you're like, you better get out of there. She's gonna kill you.
but I just love it because you can fill in the blanks
Yes.
and piece
Or
the
they're just
piece.
talking about work, and you're like, oh, they do the same thing. Like you figured out. It's not like,
Well, and they
oh,
treat you
I'm a
like a
nurse.
smart person, like
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
thrown into this world because so many movies like take me out when they're like, just monologuing. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man. And I was worried about that with the narration at the beginning, but luckily they didn't spend too much time on that.
So they take a great scene where it's you might call it shadow foring. Shadow foring. What was the funny word I used to call it? Foreshadowing. Shadow. How do you reverse those? Foreshadowing. It's foreshadowing. Shore fadowing. It's anyway, it's not funny, but it's
Oh,
just like when
I
you
would.
transpose the words. But because he would always say, "Oh, that's some really impressive show fadowing" or something
Oh,
like
I
that.
thought you were trying to quote like
Joke.
Triangle of Sadness when he was like, "I'm a shiz socialist."
This is,
Show,
I'm a shyster.
show.
I'm a
He can't say socialist. He's like
socialist,
socialist.
social man. Anyway, yeah. Foreshadowing. All right, now I'm going to start saying that wrong. Wait, but no. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing, putting feet into glass, causing physical pain because she's like,
Well, and
I
she
don't know,
puts
she's
little
been
rice
sainted. She's not gonna
on the
feel.
blanket too, Ty. Did you catch that? She puts rice on it so she can
Yeah,
hurt her knees. Like
yes,
it's kind of like a
kind of.
flogging thing.
Yeah. I kind of had the like, I will allow myself to be in pain because I will take on suffering or whatever. Like I'm ascending above my worldly needs, right? I don't know. You're all that I
Well,
need,
but
God,
some
right? It's very
religions they're
interesting.
quite, and you even saw on her legs she had all those scratches, or was it her arms?
Yes, arms, legs. She looked bruised by the end of it.
Yeah, because it's just I know some, I don't know if it's
Soulless,
religions teach you to
dull's
do that,
eyes.
but there's a lot of people that do like self-inflict pain because it's
Oh,
like,
for sure. And maybe that's her religion. Like she's into that. But in the end, it's almost like her belief is very important to her. We understand that very early on.
well,
And
but
it's
remember she said
shown
she was an early
visible.
convert. She did that because I think she killed that girl. So we're to
And
believe,
see, that's what's
yeah,
interesting to think. Yeah, maybe it was the catalyst into her
yeah.
faith and devout Christianity, But what's really interesting about this is like I laugh because a lot of Christians are like viewed as the villains in movies. But what I kind of like is you could argue that it was a traumatic experience and then she thought she could turn to God, but it's like she still was grappling with all this grief and insanity boiling inside of her. It led to So, like, spoiler alert territory, if we haven't spoiled it already, experiences something traumatic, ends up caregiving for this woman and thinks that she has a real strong bond. And then that's kind of done away with, and she's mocked and ridiculed for it. And it pushes her over the edge where she envisions that this relationship she's built, it culminates in like the devil suddenly appearing in her friend, mocking her and throwing her against the wall. And then she has to therefore proceed to kill the demon that's inside of Amanda, but very quickly is murdered Amanda. She's gone, stabbed with scissors to death. And poor Amanda, bless her, rest in peace. Because she appeared seemingly like was the devil, right? She was being taunted. And there's a great scene where Maud like has these beautiful angel wings, and all the poorest visual effects artists, they work so hard on that 1 3-second scene. It's great though, because again, she sees herself with these giant angel wings and you never see him again. But there's a great scene where she's like goes to the beach, strolls out, douses herself in kerosene, and then proceeds to light a match, and everyone falls to their knees and they're like, they're all all awe inspired by me because I am sainted and anointed and I feel no pain. Again, you try this experiment with the glass and the shoes, and you very much felt the pain. Ignites herself on fire, goes up in flames instantly, and there's like a bright light. Everyone's falling on their knees. You think they're like worshiping her. I think they're horrified at watching someone self murder themselves, suicide by fully engulfing herself in flames. And she's ascending. You think it's like a righteous moment, and then like it cuts to black, and then the movie pulls you right back in for a second, and you see Maud screaming in pain, fully engulfed in flames, and then the movie ends once more. It's a crazy ending. Again, like blink and you miss it, and you just hear this audio spike of just blood curdling scream. So very interesting way to end the movie, and I'm very fascinated. Do you believe like there's any credence to what was happening? You think it's all in her head? Like, are we to take that the devil is real, talking to her, and like forces of evil exist, or is this all just?
No, I mean it's very, I think it's dubious, but yeah, based on enough, I feel like enough scenes and things, she's definitely crazy. Like you said,
The
that
lady's
scene.
crazy. Get her committed, folks. Get on up out of here. Jordan and I have dubbed her crazy. She is not to do.
Or I mean, maybe she did see,
The
some
wings
kind
appear
of
again when she's on fire. It's great, but
an
it's
angel of
that brief
Satan.
moment. Angel of Satan. And she seems like a nice girl. I want to see her doing more movies. Please give this lady some
Oh,
work. Get her
I thought you meant
outside of
like
Rings
a
of
sequel
Power.
to this. I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's dead.
The sequel goes for another 3.5 minutes where she still burns to death, and then the movie ends again.
She sat,
Like, just in case you thought like she was gonna get out of this one.
where she
Anyway,
survives and then
she
she
falls
gets
back into the
screamed
water.
after.
Yeah, one of the people push her into the ocean. She survives somehow, I guess. Yo, this movie was like dark, ambiguous, mysterious. Dark. Did I mention dark? Anyway, I liked it. I very much was intrigued by this movie. Characters, it's a tight movie. Check this one out. If you like dark, strange, and mysterious, you like Mr. Ballen's
And
podcast, you'd
more
like this.
a slow burn too.
Yeah,
So
but a good payoff, really good payoff. And again, I saw good reviews, both less from audience. I
it,
think it was a little tougher, right? Or was it pretty good? It was like 90, 70 or something like
I
that.
think it's pretty well received.
I think most people liked it. Kind of like
Um
Smile, they're like 70, and I'm like, yeah, it's being generous. Like both this movie and Barbarian,
well,
worth the
it feels
praise.
like
But
in kind of the
Barbarian had like a high critics and low audience. I'm like, do they not get it? I don't understand that.
it feels
I
kind of
don't understand the world anymore, folks.
in the same category as like the other A24 movies. I would put it up there with like you mentioned a minute ago,
Yeah,
Hereditary and
yeah, it's
Midsummer.
entertaining on its face, and there's also a lot of really cool underlying messages about religion, faith, um, narcissism. And I mentioned the narcissism one just because she definitely had like this, like her talking to, again, just being so disgusted by Amanda's relationship to Carol. I thought that was really well done. She's like, oh, I'm her friend and I'm helping her, and she's just like, get out of here, I'm helping her, like, I don't know, it was just so good. Their dynamic, she just hated her, and you're like, girl, if you
Mhm.
stick around, you're gonna be the next victim. Like, I knew that was coming. And but I did not see it coming for Amanda's character. Rest in peace, because again, it was so intense, so fast. It was like mocking her. And again, I could see Maud being jealous of the relationship she was developing. Amanda was developing with Carol. Maud acted out in jealousy and killed her. So again, it is one of those things where it's like, but according to her mind, what we saw, that at least that's what she believed. Like the devil must be possessing her, therefore kill her. And I think that speaks a lot to like religious zealot, what do they call it? Like zealots, right? Religious nuts. They're like, they're gonna go ahead and kill people, and you know, for the sake of God told me to do it. And it's kind of
Well,
a scary thing. Like, how do
and
you talk someone out of that? They're insane.
watching it a second time too, I liked like when she said, "Oh, but we both felt the spirit." I went back and watched that scene again, or I mean the whole movie a second time, but when they were having that moment feeling the spirit, I guess, as she calls it.
What do you call it? I guess you're
Well,
like,
because like
whatever is the they
I
explain it was.
I don't know if I would call that the spirit. I don't know. It's more yeah, it's so
Oh,
weird. But anyway, she's like,
yeah,
you
it's
know, on the
ecstasy. Yeah.
couch, and then the other lady like
Just mirrors her.
yeah,
Just
and
copied
that,
her.
but then she's like, you know, reaching out and touching her hand. I think she just, because she even said at the end, she's like, I was so lonely. And she's like, you
Yeah.
have no idea
I
how
just
lonely I
pretended I
am.
was interested in the thing you were.
Yeah.
And I lied. I just
And
did
she's
it
just
so I
like
could.
looking to connect with her. So, but I don't know. But then again, maybe she did feel something, demon something.
Yeah. I was feeling something all right. But really, really cool. What I really liked about it was like there were also really cool close-ups, like eyeballs, drains, very uncomfortable things to look up close. And I can't remember who it was. It was either Nerdwriter or somebody did an essay about like extreme close-ups making you feel uncomfortable. And they're really good and effective for horror when they're done well, because you can't just like zoom in on an object, can't
Which
see
is
it. But
funny.
like
We came from this to Triangle of Sadness, which is all super wide
bar shots,
shots.
yeah. But it's funny. It's like I guess on close-up makes you uncomfortable, and it's like it's way too intimate and makes you uncomfortable. But like
Too wide also
too wide,
makes
it
you
takes
kind
you
of,
out of it. Yeah, exactly. It
that's
takes you
kind of,
out of it. I
well,
wonder.
you
Yeah,
kind of
there's got to
see
be a
you see
spacing
the
thing. Yeah.
uncomfortableness of their like body language and like because it's all in one shot, and so there's that kind of uncomfortableness too. It's interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. Anytime you
Fargo
see
does
a
the same
character,
thing. Coen brothers sometimes do that. They make people, you know, in the uncomfortable shot where they put only them in the center of the frame, so
yeah,
you get that
shot and
very
reverse shot. Yeah.
uncomfortable feeling,
Oh, dude, I'm
like
just thinking
you're
of
like
those
right there
shoe
with them.
inserts, man. I mean, like you've heard of like, comfy shoe inserts for like diabetic feet people. Hers freaking take the soles of her shoes and put nails in it. Oh, she puts her feet in, and as soon as she stands, I laughed out loud. She's like, ah! And then the next scene, you assume that she'd be out of her shoes. She's walking down the street in those Converse. And I was like, yo, lady, yikes. And she's just like, I was like, oh, like so unnerving. And you see her like lift up by the exorcist. Again, is this all happening in her mind? She literally lifts off the floor. That was terrifying. Like fireworks are going off in the distance. Really well done, guys. I'm thinking about this movie. The visuals from this movie have kept with me, and it's something to think about. So check this movie out.
I recommend it too.
An unholy terror, a religious experience, a mesmerizing horror masterpiece.
What have you seen lately, Ty? What are you looking forward to?
Yo, I watched what else did I watch? I watched so I watched a movie called The Square, but you don't want to talk about it here.
We're going to talk about it.
I can't. I have nothing to say. I have one thing to say about it. That's it. That's it. I have one thing.
That's fine.
But
I want to talk about it.
all right, dude. We can talk about it next week.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
tired. Watched Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, and then I watched No Country for Old Men again. And I have to say, I think it's climbing my chart. It's got to be, it is one of the more rewatchable movies on my top 20 list, but I think it's now approaching my top 10. I think I'm gonna have to redo my list because No Country for Old Men was unbelievable. And watching it more and more, I think I realize I understand it more. Like Tommy Lee Jones is the main character, and even though I want to see Josh Brolin win, it's kind of like the fall of King David or whatever. It's amazing story, an modern day western, and it's up there with the top. I'm gonna say it, hot take. It's gonna have to kick out something in my top 10. I don't know what movie yet, but it's going up in there. So rewatched that movie, and then I watched Smile, like I mentioned, which there's some fun parts in it. I like the trauma. I like the smile, pass it on. You can either kill someone or kill yourself. But so if you don't want to die, You gotta kill somebody else and let it pass on to somebody else. Then you go to prison, obviously, unless you can get away with murder. And then whoever sees you kill themselves. But it is interesting to think like they didn't connect it. I guess she came up with the connection, but they only had a few days to figure it out, right? Because then it jumps, because most people die within 4 to 7 days. So, and Jordan's on his phone instead of listening to me.
I'm looking at what I've seen
I'm
lately.
kidding. What are you seeing lately, dude? Because I can't think of anything else. I think I said everything else I watched.
Well, like you, I also watched a couple of like my favorite movies, which is after re-listening to our episode about um what was the Guy Ritchie movie we just reviewed?
The Guy Ritchie movie, wait, the one we reviewed. It wasn't Snatch, was it?
Yeah. So
Oh,
after
yeah.
listening to that, it got me excited about Guy Ritchie, and I rewatched Wrath of Man, which I
Okay,
love.
if you love Guy Ritchie films, you should really give Bullet Train a chance. Just saying.
I'm getting to that. So I anyways, so I just give me a second.
Did you
I
watch it?
watched a movie called I Love My Dad, recommended or not. I don't know if Red Letter Media recommended it, but they reviewed it and I watched it and I'm like, what the crap are these guys reviewing? I didn't like
Swing
it.
and a miss. Yeah.
But Patton Oswalt was great. His performance was great. But yeah, very, very uncomfortable film. And then TikTok, I watched a documentary about that, and China's
A
taking
documentary about
gonna
TikTok.
yeah, China's gonna take us over time. And then I did think it was interesting that it came out right when COVID hit, which also came from China. Excuse me, conspiracy theory. Okay.
Guys, I
And
just
then
want everyone to know on the podcast, I do not condone any of Jordan's behavior and things that he's saying are completely outlandish and unfounded.
and then I watched another documentary
Also,
called
don't look for SADS, sudden adult death syndrome on the rise. Don't look that up on Google. Please don't.
I
I'm
looked
telling my listeners, don't look it up.
at the ready another documentary. And I wasn't crazy about this one either. I don't know what's going on, but some documentaries I did like was Corman's World, which was an interesting, fascinating person that back in the day he just made lots of like cheap, not horror films, but like what are they called? Exploitation films. And Quentin Tarantino even was there to give him his first Oscar, or no, not Oscar. It was it's like the
Lifetime Achievement Award.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
And then The Last Breath. There you go. So a recommendation from Ty. Finally
Oh,
watched it. And
oh,
Ty, have you listened
yeah,
to the Mr. Ballin episode? He actually did an episode on it, but I'm
yeah.
glad they made a movie about it because you got
Yes.
to see more of the story and you got to hear from the actual
Well,
people.
you watch it, they're like, okay, he's out there. And then, like, the very first time you see the counter, it's been 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, he's dead.
He's dead. And then he's like
And
waving.
then they just keep saying it's like he's been down there, and it's been like 15 minutes, and you're like, okay, but he's dead, right? Like he cut his cord to oxygen and to heat and to the fact that, how long was he out in the end? It was like an hour, or it was
Yeah, I
like
thought it was 30
45
minutes or
minutes,
something, but it's
30
crazy.
minutes without
Maybe more.
oxygen.
Yeah,
So basically, living on the ocean floor, he like froze to hypothermia, and
mhm.
he survived without.
It
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 makes
did
no sense.
it did remind me of Trailer Park Boys when he loses oxygen for like an hour, but because he has such he uses such a small part of his brain and such a small percentage because he's so dumb. He's like when he woke up, he's like, "Oh, I guess I just didn't need that much oxygen to my brain." But
My whole
anyways,
brain didn't need that much.
very
That's funny.
very great documentary, especially because they introduced. I thought he was gonna die, but then they introduced the main guy like halfway through, and I'm like, "Oh, he's alive."
He's alive. Yeah, he
Yeah.
talks about the ending when they pull him up through, because yeah, it's like you think he's dead and they're gonna have this tragic funeral, and it's like he sits down in the
Well, because
chair and
some
you're
of them are
like,
getting choked up trying to talk about it. So I'm like, oh,
he
this guy's
died.
dead.
But in the end, they witnessed a miracle. It's amazing. And then he's like, I don't believe it was God or whatever. And I'm like, okay, amen to your miracle protection. God's like, fool me once, you're not gonna give me thanks for it. You're gonna go down here next time you do it. And he
So,
still goes down there. That's the craziest part at the end. He's like, and I'm still diving down here. You're like, what are you doing? Change jobs, change your profession.
Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, the guys that did Synchronic, I watched pretty much the majority of their films.
Was that the
Uh,
time travel with Bernie Mackey or whatever?
yeah, yeah,
Whatever his name is it Anthony
Anthony
Mackie?
Mackie,
I always call
and
him
then
Bernie.
I know, and but one of their first films is called Resolution. I didn't like it as much as they made another one called Endless, and I love the beginning of Endless, and it's kind of interesting too that they tied the very end of Endless to this movie, which was kind of clever and fun. Kind of fun when a director, ties their movies together like Quentin. And then you also
Like
got,
same universe, yeah.
yeah. And then I also watched another recommendation from Ty, Bullet Train, which I was leading up to. So
And
I appreciate that. Yes,
no,
like
you
you
didn't
guys
like
said.
it.
No, no,
Oh
I
no,
appreciate that
didn't like it.
it's like Edgar Wright, like you guys said, it was
Yeah,
fun. So I had
it
it
was
fun.
fun. You had fun. Hallelujah, he had fun. Guys, he has a soul, folks. He can feel, he can breathe. It was
I
a funny movie. I
It
laughed out
was,
loud.
but it was what I expected from the trailer. Kind of like you with Green Book. Like that's how I was with this. Like I enjoyed it and I knew I'd enjoy it. It's not my kind of
That is a
movie.
movie I'll probably rewatch more than most of these movies. Like
Mm,
I'll
interesting.
watch There Will Be Blood and then No Country for Old Men, and then I'll throw in Bullet Train between those two, Be like, you gotta cleanse the palate, You're like too
Bullet
much
Train's
greatness.
mixed in there.
It's right in there. And it's not on the same caliber, but
I
man, is it
love it.
entertaining. Yeah.
I love it.
You just have to break those two up, because those are arguably two of the greatest films of all time. Daniel Day-Lewis's best performance, and Eli, doing his best to act, or Paul Dano acting, as Eli. And then you have, and then Jake Gyllenhaal, Nightcrawler, and then you got to throw in Bullet Train, you got to throw in Wrath of Man, and then you got to throw in, The
Oh, I'm
Gentleman.
surprised you even put Wrath of Man on that list.
Well, I put it for you,
Oh,
not for me. But I'm saying you
oh,
throw in like a movie for just old time's sake, Wow, what the heck? I'll throw
yeah.
in.
I did love that. There's
Yeah.
a lot of moments I really, really liked. Like when he was flying through the
Yes.
train ridiculously,
I
and then
knew that scene. That was
yeah,
the scene I literally thought of, and I was like, you have to just see it for that when he's just
yeah.
he's floating through all the bodies of the train, and he's just like, it made me think of the bookcase in Interstellar. I literally laughed out loud. The
Yeah.
theater was totally silent, and then everyone burst out laughing, like the whole theater erupted. It was so glorious.
Yeah.
There was chuckles here and there and laughs, but that one like literally erupts just laughter. It was so funny. And it was
It's
great
kind of
because the scene goes quiet, right? Like the music stops and everything, and he's just like
it's kind of
floating.
it had a very like John Woo feeling.
Yeah,
Um
over the top.
the like, yeah, just like Face Off, kind of like crazy
Yes,
over the top,
it's
silly.
nuts. And the Edgar Wright writing, where it's like they're saying things, so many callbacks, which I really enjoy, and then subverting of
Oh,
expectations. I
oh
like
yeah,
it. Manipulative characters.
like the water
Thomas the
bottle. All of a
Tank
sudden, it goes
Engine,
back to when they first bought
the
the water bottle.
first
Just
water
silly.
bottle. Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole trip
I
of the water
appreciate they
bottle throughout
didn't
the
take
train. Yeah,
themselves so seriously. I really
yeah.
appreciated that.
And again, it was so great, like the car smashing the character at the end. I won't say
Pa-
which or what. It's
Paperboy's
great.
accent. It did take me a second to get used to. I was like, okay. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. But I love seeing him because I'm like, dude, I love
Oh
Ben
yeah, no, it
Lana.
was
It's
fun.
amazing. Yeah,
Just
but again, his character getting his satisfactory revenge, because at the beginning you're like, oh, it's like a Deus Ex Machina, but you're like, no, this character has come all this
they had
way.
so many great actors make an appearance in this movie. It's like Ryan
Yeah,
Reynolds. What the heck? This made an
great
appearance.
cameo, so funny.
Yeah.
I know that made me think. It made me think of like a great cameos. Folks, this has been Futro Hidden Movie Gems. Leave us an email, futuremovies@gmail.com. We love you so much. Write into us, leave us a comment, and tell us a movie that you'd like us to review in the future. This has been Future Hidden Movie Gems signing out. Peace.
Bye.
Your savior is coming.